Video summary. I'm running the London Marathon for the Alzheimer's Society and I'm very grateful if you would sponsor me. I just want to have a chat for a minute if that's alright. Now, mini story time. Let me introduce you to a very lucky lady who is my granny. She is 92 years old. She lives now just around the corner. Born and raised in South Shields. She worked in a mining cafe. She had lots of friends. She was a daughter, a mother, a sister, a grandmother, multiple times over now. And a general all-round great gal. She loved dancing, bingo, made a mean pea soup which used to put vinegar in, which I've never done that with any other soup, but it was actually pretty good. Anyway, just over 10 years ago, we started to notice uncharacteristic changes in her. Her memory became very bad and she just started doing unusual things. Once we were up visiting and we were upstairs, she was downstairs, and she forgot that we were there, you know. She just forgot, and she'd made herself dinner. And when we went down to see what this dinner comprised of, it was a toastie, so just a toasted sandwich with 2 pieces of bread, but with Turkish delight in the middle. So, you know, not ham and cheese or anything more usual. There was a chocolate bar in the middle of her toastie, which, you know, she may just have been ahead of the curve because the Cream Egg Cafe in London has been immensely popular. So perhaps it was just, you know, she was just a genius ahead of her time. I've never actually tried it. It might actually be quite nice. I mean, who knows? But she started doing other things like cutting out the middleman when she was making a cup of tea. She would put the tea bag and the milk and the water in the kettle all together and boil it. Shortly afterwards, she was diagnosed with dementia. Now, dementia is not a disease in itself. It describes a set of symptoms like memory loss and other difficulties with thinking that are caused by other diseases of the brain or by strokes. What symptoms you get depends on what sort of diseases have caused the damage to your brain, and it's a very individual thing, dementia. It affects everyone in different ways. Whilst the most common cause is Alzheimer's disease, there are a lot of other causes and there are a lot of different symptoms which people will experience, some more than others, and perhaps not at all. The most common one is day-to-day memory that people seem to lose. Whilst they can remember songs and various things from a long time ago, they find it difficult remembering what they had for breakfast or what they just said to you. They can often start repeating questions and conversations. They have problems planning, they have difficulty concentrating on things. All sorts of things, from judging distances to just being aware of your surroundings, knowing where you are or where you're going. Dementia is a progressive condition. The speed very much depends on the individual. My granny's progression has been very slow. Not unnoticeable, but slow enough for you to, you know, deal with and adapt with in your own way. At the more extreme end, people with dementia can start hallucinating. They can have big mood swings that are very uncharacteristic, and some of them will start to believe things that aren't true. My granny, despite never having visited Canada in her life, she absolutely insisted that that is where she was born and that was where she lived. She lived in Canada all her life. We're quite lucky that my granny is she's still pretty happy in herself. She's still jolly, she still sings to us, she still tells us that she loves us a lot. Where there are other ladies that live with her that just pace up and down the corridors all day, that get very agitated, that get very anxious, and just become quite different people to what they used to be. That is the hardest thing to deal with as someone, you know, with a friend or a loved one that does have dementia, is losing them slowly. I know, and I've come to understand that my granny doesn't recognise me. She doesn't know who I am anymore. You know, when I go and visit her, she doesn't know that I'm her grandson. She doesn't know what my name is. And I'm sure she probably remembers me in the past, but she doesn't know who I am. And I think to come to terms with that, if my granddad was still alive and he could see her slipping away, I think that must be so hard for someone who, when they've been together for, you know, 60 odd years or something, to suddenly see someone slip away from you slowly. That must be the hardest thing about living with someone with dementia, I think. For them not to recognise you, for your own, you know, husband or wife to forget you. That must be heart-wrenching, really. But the main motivation that I'm running for the Alzheimer's Society is because they believe very much that life doesn't end when dementia begins, and that is very true. People can still live good and fulfilling lives with dementia, and the Alzheimer's Society looks to give practical and emotional support and advice to people who are living with dementia, whether you have it yourselves or you're supporting someone, and they also fund world-class research to try and cure dementia, because there is no cure for dementia. In a few years there'll be about 1 million people in the UK living with dementia, and a lot more of people that are connected to them. And whilst there are a variety of things that can help slow down progression, there is no cure. And research into that would make a huge difference. Dementia can happen to anybody. It could happen to me, it may well do, because people think there's a hereditary link. So that is my motivation for running the London Marathon, which is bloomin' long. I didn't really realise how hard it was going to be. A running friend of mine, I was like, yeah, I ran a few half marathons, I'll be fine. He was like, no, it is really hard. I did about 4/5 distance last weekend, and it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So if you don't know, a marathon is 26 miles, which is 42 kilometres. It's all on TV. If you see me, give me a holler, and anything that you could give would be much appreciated. Thank you. How'd you say sponsor me in cat chills? Hey? Hey? Well, you rubbish cat.